Hello, everybody, and welcome to the listening and note-taking course. You can see in this course, we have many kinds of questions. We focus on many techniques and skills, right? But let's see, what the kind of question we are going to focus on today is. So today we are going to focus on short answer questions. This type of question is nothing really new to you if you have done the IELTS test. But you can see this is one of the kinds of questions you have in the IELTS exam, right? Then that's the benefit if you have done the IELTS exam. If not, don't worry. Then today we are going to focus on some of the tips and skills in order to cope with, in order to do this kind of questions. Now, so let's focus on the content for the class today. We are going to focus on just 3 sections. First, we just focus on a few simple questions. We are going to see the kind of short answer questions, what they look like, something like that. And then we are going to have the skills. We focus on it means the strategies, the techniques on how to get the answers correctly. And finally, that's the practice. Okay, are you ready to begin? Let's start. Now let's go to the simple questions. Can you just imagine what the questions are like? Then you can see, for example, this is the simple questions for topic number 1. You can see it's like an event, they're doing things together, right? In fact, it's a volunteering project in a company. You listen to a piece of listening like this, and you have questions number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 questions for this kind of passage. The questions can be with how much, about the time, how did volunteering help them, how, what was the aim, the purpose. Besides the old projects, what is the new project, what is it? What is the purpose again? And then what would the staff do in this case? Simple questions for topic number 2 is about outer space. You can see space observation. What is the topic of the lecture? And then the person. When was the first recorded moon photograph produced? When, the time. The purpose again. Astronomers aim to do. And the 2 types, the two main types of observation. Another one, this is a nice girl. It's about work habits. And you have 6 questions again. What topic does the speaker mainly discuss? And then what can we understand by looking at something? Why did Dina work? And when Dina's kids began school, what did she start to do? How many hours? And also the type of person Laura represents. Okay, then you can see the questions. For sure, we don't have yes/no questions. We have WH questions. That is very important to focus on the kind of information you need to get. We'll get that in the skills. Now let's move on to the second part, skill focus. Then, now let's brainstorm a little bit. What should we do when addressing this type of question? Think for a few seconds. What should we do? Should we read the questions first? Should we translate the questions into Vietnamese? Should we try to memorize, learn by heart the questions? Should we look at the questions while we are listening? Or we just don't care, we just listen, relaxed, and listen, and wait for the answers to come, and what will be, will be. Okay? I guess you have got your experience and your own strategies already. Let us go to some of the tips now. Okay? Now we focus on the simple questions for topic number 3 about work habits. Now let's focus on the pre-listening tips. It means there are things in fact we can do before we listen. Same thing for the IELTS exam, same thing for other exams. Is it right? Yeah. We don't just go to the listening with a blank mind. There should be at least the predictions. Right? Then make yourself ready for the listening. So what are the tips? Yeah. There are just 2 tips I would like to tell you in this class. Tip number 1, read through the questions, identify the keywords. Yeah. What are the keywords? What kind of keywords do we have to focus on? That's a question. So number 1, the key focus of the answer. So think about the kind of information the question wants you to give. Does the question want to focus on the time? Like what time? When? Does the question ask you to focus on the quantity? How many? How much? Is it right? Yeah. Or, via the question, you have to focus on the information like the place, where, or maybe the purpose, why, what for. Is it right? It is very important to focus on the type of information you expect to give in the answer. That is the key focus. When the question asks you for a person, then look for the information about a person. Then when the information is about a person, that may be the answer. Right? Yeah. So think about the key focus. And also the signals for the answer. It means in the listening, do you know when, where the answer is? We have to focus on the signals. Then let's see, the colors for question number 1. The key focus of the answer, the topic. Topic should be something in general. It covers the whole meaning, everything, something in general of the listening passage. Right? And then what about the signals here? It's like the keywords we often underline in the questions. Mainly discuss. Discuss. Right? Like when you hear the word discuss, you know that the answer is just somewhere. It's coming very close. Also, what, understand. Focus on what. And then the signals, 3 generations. Same thing for number 3. You focus on the reason, right? You often think of the word because. Why? Fast food restaurants, during her high school years. That's the signal. The same thing for, what start to do and kids begin school. That's the signal. How many hours? The kind of information you want to give. That's the quantity. How many hours? And remember, a week, not a year or a month. Right? And also number 6, the type of person. And the keyword, the signal is represents. Then you can see, the first step. Then, many teachers often say you have to read the questions and underline the keywords. Underline the keywords here. In fact, they are like the signals, right? But in fact, I just tell you, 2 things when you just, underline, identify the keywords. Number 1, think about the key focus of the answer. Which information do you expect to receive? Do you expect to give for your answer? And number 2, the signals for the answer. It tells you when the answer may come in the listening. That's tip number 1. Read, right? Don't just read for fun, don't learn by heart, but read with a very strong, very clear purpose. Now let's go to tip number 2. Can you guess what it is? Tip number 2. Think of paraphrasing techniques. In the easy, basic recording passages, we almost have, something like, exact keys. It means, the keyword in the question is also the words you hear in the recording, in the listening. That's more or less the same. That's the easy thing, right? However, in many other situations, I mean in the higher levels, advanced levels, they often paraphrase. You don't have the exact keys, you have the similar keys, and they can be synonyms. And synonym is one way to paraphrase. Is it right? Yeah. And if you can think of different ways like this, listening can be much easier. Now, paraphrasing techniques. You have learned a lot already. How can we paraphrase? What are the ways to paraphrase? Let's see whether you can remember. Using synonyms is number 1. Right? Just replace the word with another. And many students just do this for writing by replacing words and words. This is the basic paraphrasing skill, or the basic step. The next, another one is to, you have varied sentence structures. So you turn the structure, from one, structure to another structure. There are 5 people in my family. My family has 5 people. I was born into a family of 5. Something like that, right? Yeah, that's varied sentence structures. Then you can see in the question, this structure, but maybe in the recording, that's another one. It can be with the voice as well, active voice, passive voice. Think about this. Maybe word order as well. They change the order of the word. And even word form as well. Yeah, in the question, that's a verb. In the listening, that can be a noun. That can be an adjective. Then that's more with understanding, with comprehension. Is it right? Yeah, if it's exactly the keys you just read in the questions, that can be quite easy. Let's see whether the listening we have today is easy or difficult. Okay, now so from the paraphrasing techniques, we are going to have a look. We look back at the questions, and now we are going to focus on the signals for the answer. They just paraphrase the signals. Have a look at the first one, number 1. What topic does the speaker mainly discuss? In the recording, today I'm going to mainly discuss something, very clear. Quite easy, right? There can be other ways the speaker uses in order to introduce or to tell you about the main focus, the main topic of today's talk. Can you think of any? Have a look at this. Today, we are going to focus on, or today, we are going to talk about, right? Or we are going to spend our entire class today discussing something. Then you can see what comes next is the topic. Is it right? And when you have the answer, just write the answer down and then just keep listening. You can just check and double check. And see whether this topic covers the whole knowledge, everything you hear in the recording, in the listening. Then that's the topic. Be very careful because they can cheat you with the topic last time and the topic today. Something like, well, we've been talking about life in Ho Chi Minh City. Last week, we spent time talking about the benefits of living in this city. We talk about healthcare service, we talk about education, we talk about job opportunities, and a variety of types of entertainment. Today, we keep talking about the city, but we are going to spend our entire class today discussing the other side of the city. The dark side, or I mean the disadvantages or the risks of living in this city. Then you can see what can be the topic for today. It is not about the city, that's too general. It is not about the benefits, it's for last week. Is it right? Today is not about the advantages, it's about the disadvantages, it's the risks of living in this city. Now let's go to number 2. 3 generations. Instead of saying 3 generations, they can just paraphrase by saying, in a different way. What can be the ways? So, can you think of any? Have a look at this. Maybe here's something like a big family from Mexico, a large Mexican family, a family including grandparents, parents, and grandchildren. 3 generations, right? Be flexible with the recording. When you hear something like this, the answer is just around. Now number 3. Fast food restaurants during her high school years. You have the good high school years and fast food restaurants. Think about a paraphrase for fast food restaurants. High school years. Now fast food restaurant, a restaurant serving burgers, hamburgers, spaghetti, pizza, fizzy drinks, French fries, for example. That's fast food. You don't hear the word fast food, but it's fast food. When she was studying at high school, then they said during her high school years. That's paraphrasing. Okay. What about number 4? The kids began school. How can we paraphrase? Just the expectation, because sometimes in the listening it's so easy and it's just the exact case, but we have to get ready for the unexpected, right? Now, kids began school. Kids, children, began, start. Children started school. Children were at school age, or kids reached school age. Right? Number 5. Work at a law firm close to Los Angeles. A law firm, Now, so law firm officer. Okay. How many hours a week? Okay. Then also near Los Angeles. Close to, that's near. Find a job in a law company. That's something, right? When we see that, she just begins telling you about, this idea. And then think about, the kind of information. How many hours? But be very careful, a week, not a month, not a year. Now the last question, what type of person? Represent. Think about the noun of represent. Think about the adjective of represent. A person represents maybe a group of people, right? What type of person? Now think about the paraphrase for the word represent. Stand for, she is the representative image She makes herself the representative image of something. She displays an example of something. She displays an example of single mum something. Or she acts as a representation. Yeah, it should be representation better than the word presentation. She acts as a representation of somebody and somebody. Okay, then you can see, in fact, we have been talking about paraphrasing. We don't have lots of time in reality before the listening. This is just pre-listening. Then in fact, we have around maybe 15 to 20 seconds. Not a lot of time, is it right? Then you have to be very fast. Then if you are quite familiar to this, and when you just read the questions, it can be very easy for you to think of, paraphrasing. And even you can just, look at the questions while you are listening, right? Then just, listen and focus on the keywords, and you can multitask. Yeah, you are listening, but in fact you are thinking about paraphrasing. Then get ready for paraphrasing. And don't expect that you have to hear the words in paraphrasing. It can be other words, but at least we can be ready for the situations. Now let's go to practice. You can see the questions now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now you are going to listen for 2 times. And then we are going to go to the answers. Remember, when you listen, also take a pen, a piece of paper, and write down the answer, and check with me later. Are you ready to listen? Now let's begin.
Okay, let's go back to our discussion of work trends again today. I want to focus on the differences in how different people work and live today. I want to use the example of members of one family from different generations to show you how these differences play out. First, let's look at the family that I used in my study. They're a large Mexican family living in Southern California. By looking at these 3 generations, we get a good picture of how different generations deal with work. Okay, let me start with the example of the grandmother Maria. Her story's simple. She's never worked, and she never will. That just wasn't the way for women during her time. Her daughter Dina has worked since she was 16. During high school, Dina worked at a fast food restaurant to save money for college. And after working hard in college, she got married and had 3 children. And as soon as the children were school age, she began to work full-time as an office manager. So you can see that with the responsibilities of family and work, her life was all work and no play. Okay, so now let's move on to talk about the trend that we see these days. And that is that people balancing their work and their leisure. I'll use another person in the family that illustrates a trend. It's Dina's daughter, 34-year-old Laura. Laura also works full-time, but unlike her mother, she has leisure time in her life. She works at a successful law firm near Los Angeles, at least 50 hours a week, every week. But on a typical weekday evening, she meets a friend for dinner and salsa dancing, and on the weekend, she comes home to take care of her grandmother and to give her mother a break. Okay, now that we've talked about the basic description of the family, let's talk about the differences in work and leisure between the generations. Laura represents the trend of women getting married later in life, after they've established themselves in a career. We'll get into the details of this trend in the next class.
Okay. Now, are you ready for the second time? Listen again.
Okay, let's go back to our discussion of work trends again today. I want to focus on the differences in how different people work and live today. I want to use the example of members of one family from different generations to show you how these differences play out. First, Let's look at the family that I used in my study. They're a large Mexican family living in Southern California. By looking at these 3 generations, we get a good picture of how different generations deal with work. Okay, let me start with the example of the grandmother Maria. Her story's simple. She's never worked, and she never will. That just wasn't the way for women during her time. Her daughter Dina has worked since she was 16. During high school, Dina worked at a fast food restaurant to save money for college. And after working hard in college, she got married and had 3 children. And as soon as the children were school age, she began to work full-time as an office manager. So you can see that with the responsibilities of family and work, her life was all work and no play. Okay, so now let's move on to talk about the trend that we see these days. And that is that people balancing their work and their leisure. I'll use another person in the family that illustrates a trend. It's Dina's daughter, 34-year-old Laura. Laura also works full-time, but unlike her mother, she has leisure time in her life. She works at a successful law firm near Los Angeles, at least 50 hours a week, every week. But on a typical weekday evening, she meets a friend for dinner and salsa dancing, and on the weekend, she comes home to take care of her grandmother and to give her mother a break. Okay, now that we've talked about the basic description of the family, let's talk about the differences in work and leisure between the generations. Laura represents the trend of women getting married later in life, after they've established themselves in a career. We'll get into the details of this trend in the next class.
Okay. How's the listening? Have you got, everything with you? I mean the answers with you? Are you ready to check? How sure are you with your answers? Now, we are going to focus on the keywords. Now, number 1, I'm going to show you the script. Here, in the listening, you hear, okay, let's go back to our discussion of work trends again today. I want to focus on the differences in how different people work and live today. What topic does the speaker mainly discuss? Short answer questions, we do not need to give the full long answer. We don't care much for grammar. Just focus on the very key information, that's the content. But make sure when you write the answer, it should be clear, not confusing. Right? Yeah. And also care for spelling mistakes as well. Okay, the answers. Yeah, I want to focus on, then what topic? You just say the differences in how different people work and live today. Easy? So easy. Now let's go to number 2. Now, what can we understand by looking at 3 generations? 3 generations. In the recording, there are a large Mexican family living in Southern California. By looking at these 3 generations, we get a good picture of how different generations deal with work. What can we understand? We get a good picture of something. It means we understand. Then the answer, how different generations deal with work. Easy? Such a piece of cake. Yeah, it means easy. Now number 3. Why? Think about the reasons. In the listening, her daughter, Dina, has worked since she was 16. During high school, Dina worked at a fast food restaurant to save money for college. Then you can see the keyword. During high school years, Dina worked at a fast food restaurant. This is an easy question, right? Yeah, very clear keyword. The answer you can see, why, what for, you say to do something. You can say, yeah, Dina worked at a fast food restaurant because she wanted to save money for college. It can be a sentence with because, you often think of the word because. But now to is also, a phrase of purpose, right? Then to save money for college. Or you don't have the word to, just save money for college, okay? I hope you have got 3 answers correct. Now number 4, kids began school. Start to do, it should be a verb. Is it right? And a verb in the past. Did. In the recording, and as soon as the children were school age, she began to work full-time as an office manager. So you can see that with the responsibilities of family and work, her life was all work and no play. Poor her. Now, the children were school age. It means the kids began school. It is in our expectation, right? Your answer? Work full-time as an office manager. Start to do, began to. Now number 5, how many hours a week? Quantity. Worked at a law firm close to Los Angeles. Let's see, is Dina's daughter, 34-year-old Laura. Laura also works full-time, but unlike her mother, she has leisure time in her life. She works at a successful law firm near Los Angeles, at least 50 hours a week, every week. Very clear, right? Yeah, you can see close to, near. Again, in our expectation. She works at a successful law firm. They just add maybe some more information. And even sometimes in the recording, they just give you additional information. Yeah, in the middle. Then maybe, yeah, the purpose is to make you lose concentration, to distract you. The answer is just a way around. Then you can see, yeah, which information is about, yeah, quantity, 50 hours a week. Very clear, 50 hours. You can write the word 50 hours, to be clear. Now let's go to the last one, number 6. What type of person does Laura represent? Laura represents the trend of women getting married later in life after they've established themselves in a career. We'll get into the details of this trend in the next class. That's the promise. That's interesting, right? Now, the trend, you can see what type of person does Laura represent, and she represents, you can say, yeah, the trend of women getting married after establishing in a career, to be short, the very key words. Or maybe the trend of women establishing in a career first, and then getting married. It depends on you. The meaning is the same. Okay? Yeah, so I guess, yeah, you can just get some ideas about how to do this kind of task. Then you can see here for short answer questions. Before you listen, think about the 2 tips. Yeah, you need to read the questions, identify the keywords. Yeah, read the keywords, read the questions. Don't learn by heart, because if you just learn by heart, you are going to lose more concentration for the record, because part of your brain should be on, yeah, you save, part of the brain for memory, for remembering the questions, for learning by heart the questions. And you are going to lose, you have less brain power for, yeah, the listening. Then, yeah, just focus on the keywords. In the exam, you can just, yeah, use your pen or maybe marker or something to underline the keywords, right? And then focus on the keywords while you are listening. Yeah, read the keywords, think about the focus, what you have to listen for. That's the question, what for? And also think about the signals for the answer. And then think about paraphrasing techniques. The more ways of paraphrasing you can think of, the easier the recording can be, I guess. Okay? Yeah, so I guess that's the end of the lesson today. I hope that the lesson today is useful for you. We are going to, spend time having more practice on this. Practice makes perfect, and we need to practice and practice. Then we are going to be familiar with the skills. You can see 30 seconds before, the recording starts is a very short time. It passes on very quickly. And in fact, we are going to think, and keep thinking. And only when it becomes something like a habit, we can think very fast. It means we look at the word and we can think of different ways as well. And also in the future, when we are quite familiar, you just understand the concept of the meaning of the word, then we don't need to care for paraphrasing because we can be ready for comprehension. And then our mind is going to link the comprehension, the ideas to the keyword, and you know right away that's the answer. And that's how we practice. Okay, so that's the end of the class today. Thank you very much. So goodbye.